Thank you. All right, thanks for joining me, everybody. I'm glad you're really interested in how to slow the aging process. I am going to try my best to keep this brief and keep it simple and understandable. If you have any questions, feel free to save them to the end, and we'll go over anything that's a concern for you or anything you didn't understand. There's a lot going on in the aging, in the field of aging, and we've learned a lot about how to slow the aging process. So what is aging? Well, it's basically more of the body is breaking down than is rebuilding. So we have an increased breakdown of body tissues, and we have a decrease of the healing or rejuvenation of those same tissues, and so that's going to lead to aging. And it's somewhat a natural process, but it gets speeded along by a lot of environmental factors. So I know that probably one of the biggest areas that people are interested in is how your skin ages, because we're all looking at our skin every day, and we want to have youthful skin, and we want to prevent that aging process and rejuvenate our skin. So basically, the skin cells replace themselves about every 27 days. So about every month, you have the potential to have fresh new skin. So why do we age? Because over time, we have a breakdown of the tissues of the skin, and in particular, the tissues that we call collagen and elastin. And those proteins break down over time just through the aging process and through what we call oxidation. And oxidation just means that the cells are being damaged and have to be repaired. So we also have a decrease in the fat layer of skin, the fat layer under our skin, rather. And this can lead to the skin not looking as smooth and as youthful as it does. And that's just a normal process of aging. But we can increase the collagen and elastin repair. And that's one of the things that a lot of the supplements focus on, is repairing collagen. So should we listen to the beauty industry? Well, they do have a lot of good information, and there's a ton of research that goes on in the beauty industry, because they are trying to sell us all products that are going to help our skin. The problem with there are some problems with the beauty industry, and number one is that it's not regulated. And because it's not regulated, they can put some harmful ingredients in there. So when you do buy beauty products, you want to make sure that they are organic, they're clean, they've been made by a reputable company that you trust, and that you know the ingredients that are in those things that you put on your skin. We always have to remember that our skin is porous, and that a good percentage, I'm going to estimate about 75% of everything that comes into contact with our skin actually goes through the skin and into the blood. And so a lot of those dangerous chemicals can get into our bloodstream and cause problems. So, so basically, some of the things that the beauty industry recommends will actually tear away the old damaged outer layers of the skin, so that you can reveal the inner layers, and the skin can start to heal itself and build new skin cells. So they do work, but they work temporarily until those skin cells are damaged, and then you're back in the same place. They do make the skin look better for a while, and they do help your skin to start the repair process. There are some dangerous things, though, that are in the recommended prescription-wise, and I mentioned one there that's on the screen called tretinoin, and it's actually retin-A is what it is, and it actually has a huge long list of side effects. When I looked it up, it actually looked pretty dangerous. So you really do need to know what you're using. And so the answer to that is sometimes you can listen to the beauty industry, and sometimes you should probably not would do what they're recommending, but you really need to just educate yourself and find out more about what they're recommending. As far as laser can be very helpful, it does cause some increased healing in the cells. So laser treatments can be good. Ultrasound does do some skin tightening, but like I said, a lot of these things are temporary. All right, so the truth about aging is that it really comes from the inside. And so your real power in slowing down the aging process is in the things that you put into your body. So those things you have a lot more control over than the things that are affecting you from the outside, such as sunshine and chemicals in the air and things like that. So that's where you really need to put a lot of your focus on your ability to regenerate cells, on the things that you're putting into your body, and then also the hormones that you're exposed to and how those are affecting your body. So when I mentioned that the beauty industry is unregulated, another thing that you need to know is that virtually any product that says anything about helping with wrinkles on the label, and it's something you put on your skin, it's going to have hormones in it, and they don't have to list those hormones on the label. So a lot of times you can be getting hormones that you're not even aware of. So there's another case where you need to know the company that you're dealing with and make sure of whether they're putting hormones in or not. Now, there's times where you may need those hormones, and if they are natural hormones and not synthetics, then it may be a benefit to you. It may be something you need, but you need to be aware of a lot of those products do have hormones in them. So you need to be aware of what toxins you're being exposed to, and try to make sure that you have clean products that you're using, and you need to be doing something to help your body get rid of those toxins. So what about genetics? That's always the biggest question, and a lot of people attribute their aging and their health and everything else in their life to their genes. Do genes play a role? Well, yes, of course they do. And as far as how long you're going to live, if you're going to live to be 110, that does seem to be heavily related to your genes. But as far as how youthful you look and how healthy you are and how good you feel, there's a much heavier role for epigenetics than genes with that. And so epigenetics is the study of those things that are affecting the genes by turning them off and on. So you can have genes, but what really causes the expression of those genes is whether they're turned on or off, and that happens through your environment, which can be what you eat, it can be what you're exposed to, it can be the type of exercise you do, it can be a whole host of things that in your lifestyle that affect those genes and turn them on or off. And when it comes right down to it, everything having to do with aging is all about your mitochondria. Maybe you've heard of mitochondria, maybe you haven't, maybe it sounds like something strange, but it's actually the little powerhouse that is inside of each and every one of your cells. And those mitochondria pretty much control your energy production and how your cell grows and dies and repairs itself. So everything that we do is really focused on those mitochondria. And our current understanding of mitochondria is they are really very rudimentary one-cell organisms, and are thought to have been primitive bacteria. Actually, is the current idea of mitochondria. Now, there are little powerhouses, and so we're always concerned about our mitochondria. And I think the most fascinating thing about mitochondria is that they only come from our mother. We don't get our mitochondrial DNA from our father at all. We get our mitochondrial DNA from just our mother. So the health of a mother is extremely important. The health of the mother during pregnancy and while carrying the baby is extremely important, and has a lot to do with how the health of that baby and throughout their life. It's a very important thing. Okay, so just more about epigenetics. It's probably the biggest field of science right now, and it's really exploding. There has been a number of really amazing research projects done. And the one that really kind of blew my mind was one that was, I think, about 10 years ago now, that kind of blew the mind of all of science and is probably going to win a Nobel Prize. They did a project with rats, and they found that if they added certain vitamins to a mother's diet while she was pregnant, that it would change the entire health expression and the looks, the fur color, and the size of the babies that she would have. And it was really just a groundbreaking study. So we know for certain now that we can change how the genes express just purely through diet. So it tells you the importance of diet, and something that people like me have been talking about forever and ever, and now it's being proven how important your diet is in all aspects of your health.
So Christine, so I'm just going to ask you, I'm just curious, maybe other people are thinking about this too, because right now there's a lot of marketing around 23andMe and finding all about your genetics. So based on what you're saying, how seriously should we take that information?
Oh, it's very important, and it's valuable to find out what your genetics are. And then once you find out those genetics, you can find out more about what type of diet you should be engaged in, what type of exercise you should be doing, and other factors that are affecting those genes, because you can turn on and off those genes depending on whether they're harmful or whether they're good genes that you want to express. So it's helpful to find out those genes, but the genes themselves are not the bottom line. It's actually what you're doing in your life to express or not express those genes that's important.
Okay. All right, cool. How's everybody else doing so far? Any questions so far? Moving right along. All right. I don't see any questions here, but okay. All right. Thanks, Christine.
Okay. So this new field we call nutrigenomics is actually how each of the nutrients affects gene expression. And it's a brand new science and being explored, but there are things that we know now about certain nutrients and how they affect your health, how they affect your aging, how they affect the way you look, all of those things. So it's a really fascinating field of science. All right, so these are the things that we know will accelerate the aging process. So these are the things we want to really avoid if we're concerned about looking and being and feeling youthful. So, of course, a diet that is full of chemicals, that is full of what we call trans fats, which are damaging to cells, and full of things that are really non-foods, that are made in a lab rather than grown from the earth. Those things are going to accelerate aging because they damage our cells and they don't provide the things that our cells need to regenerate themselves. So diet is actually our food that we eat is what our body uses to make new cells. So if you want to regenerate skin, if you want to regenerate any part of your body, you have to have all those constituents from your diet in order to rebuild healthy cells. And then hormones, of course, are a huge factor. Hormones are chemical messengers. They send messages throughout the whole body and are telling our body what to do and play a huge role in aging. And so our vitality hormones are things like estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. All of those are the hormones that are telling your body to rebuild itself and rejuvenate itself and repair itself. And then the hormones that are tearing us down are things like cortisol is the main one we think of. There's lots of other hormones that play in there, but those are the ones that are most common and that we have a lot of control over through our diet and through our stress response and things like that. So not enough sleep, we know, is a huge factor in aging. We know that it's during sleep that your lymphatic system in your brain clears out toxins in the brain. And we know that without enough sleep, a lot of different hormones are activated or inactivated and can accelerate the aging process. How much is enough sleep? Well, it really varies a lot between individuals, but as a general rule, 7 to 8 hours a night is what they feel like most people really need. If you feel rested when you wake, then you've probably gotten enough sleep. If you don't feel rested, then you probably haven't gotten enough sleep. So you need to really gauge for yourself. And then, of course, a sedentary lifestyle. So like anything in the body parts that are not used deteriorate and don't rebuild themselves. Your body isn't going to rebuild anything that it feels is unneeded. So if it's not being used, it just deteriorates. So we need to move, and I'm not talking about just going to the gym and just exercise. We need to move all day long. We need to have our blood moving. We need to have our lymph moving. We need to have our immune system being challenged. We need all the body parts to be used and moved during the day. And then, of course, toxins, which are any chemicals that are damaging to the body. And unfortunately, today there's a lot of them in our environment and in our foods and our water, in the air, that are damaging to the body and break down cells. So we need to avoid the ones that we can and do the best we can to keep toxins out of our bodies. And then, of course, stress is a big factor. But one of the things that I think people don't take into account is that actually too little stress can be as bad for the aging process as too much stress. And we'll talk some more about that. And then oxidative stress. So we'll talk about that too. And we'll talk about what ages is. But all of these, this whole list here is what accelerates the aging process. So let's talk a little bit about sugar, because sugar is involved in what we call AGEs, which is the big fancy thing called advanced glycation end products. But it's basically when you take food that is high in sugar and you cook it at high temperatures, you create these things that are called AGEs. And these things cause the destruction of the collagen and elastin. So they cause aging of your skin. So anytime you eat fast foods, which are full of sugar and they are definitely cooked at high temperatures, you are causing aging of your skin. So there's something really simple that you can do is just cut out processed foods and fast foods. Cereals are a huge culprit here. People don't realize it, but cereals, we all know they're full of sugar, but they're also cooked at very high temperatures when they're processed. So there's all sorts of things that you need to avoid there, but it's basically junk food, processed food, anything that doesn't look like it was grown from the earth are the things that you want to avoid if you want to avoid ages and aging of your skin. All right, toxic exposure. Probably one of the biggest things here is plastics. I always like to mention plastics because they're so prevalent and they're just everywhere. And the more you can reduce the plastic that you eat from, the plastic you drink from, the plastic that's around you, the better for you. So toxins, they damage your cells, they create free radicals, they cause damage to the cells, they promote inflammation, they change our hormones. A lot of toxins are actually hormone disruptors, and so they change the way our hormones act in our body, and they fool our bodies into thinking that they are hormones. They can cause a lot of damage to the thyroid. Unfortunately, the thyroid is very susceptible to toxins in the body, and especially heavy metals. And so whatever you can do, there's only so much we can do here. There are a lot of toxins that we don't have control over, so just focus on the things in your life that you do have control over. Start getting rid of plastics in your life. Stop drinking from plastic water bottles and start looking at all your personal care products and cleaning products and make sure that they are green and clean and don't have toxic damaging chemicals in them. And that will have a huge effect on your aging, on your skin health and how vital you are. Okay, so what is oxidative stress? I am certain that everybody listening tonight has heard this term, and we know it's a big bad boogeyman, but what is it? And it's actually the natural process that anything goes through as it ages. As you can see by this picture, a piece of fruit or a vegetable, if you let it sit out, it will oxidize, and that is oxidative stress on that. And your cells go through the same thing. So there are things that increase oxidative stress and things that decrease it. And so anything we do that prevents our cells from being damaged and helps our cells to repair is going to reduce oxidative stress. So it's basically just that balance that goes on in the body. We always want to be protecting our cells from damage and helping our cells to repair. And I'm just going to mention again, I already mentioned these things about a sedentary lifestyle, but I can't stress it enough. There is so much we can do as far as movement. You know, a lot of people feel like, well, I don't have time to go to the gym every day, or I don't have the equipment needed, or it's too hot outside or too cold outside.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, I hear all the excuses all the time. But it's really more about moving. You cannot make up for 8 hours of sitting at a computer or at a desk or in front of the TV with going to the gym for an hour. You just can't make up for it. So it's getting up and moving. Walk whenever you can. Take the stairs whenever you're able to. Go outside and just walk around the house, or walk around your house inside if you can't go outside. But just move whenever possible. I tell people that have to sit at a desk to set an alarm for themselves so they get up at least every 20 to 30 minutes and move around. Our bodies require movement. Get up and do a couple of yoga poses, just move your body. Do some stretches. Post a little flyer, which I would be glad to give you, that has stretches on it, and do a few stretches whenever you can.
And Christine, I was just going to say, I always think that's interesting and so true, because, and actually the more sedentary you are, the more exhausted you feel. And then you feel like, well, I'm just too tired to move. I'm too tired to do anything. Because I used to sit at a desk 10 hours a day, and I just turned into Jello. Now I teach yoga and spend a lot of time teaching yoga to older adults. And it's amazing how much they improve their flexibility and their energy. They come up to me all the time, their blood pressure, all these things. You have to move. So these are great points.
Have to move. And good point, Rebecca. I wanted to stress flexibility, because a lot of people, things that they associate with the aging process and, oh, I'm just getting old, is actually a loss of flexibility and a loss of balance. And those things can be regained just through practicing yoga, doing some stretches, doing a few balancing exercises, and getting up and moving. And you can be just amazed at how, oh gosh, I wasn't just getting old, I was being too sedentary and wasn't using those muscles and wasn't using my joints to their full extent. The joints have to be moved, otherwise you lose flexibility. So it's really, really important, and huge effect on aging.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about stress. It's such a big topic, and I usually do a whole class on stress, so I'm not going to spend this whole class on stress, but it's an interesting concept that there is a right amount of stress for health. And if you have too little stress or challenge, I might call it, rather than stress, in your life, you actually don't function well. So your body needs a certain amount of challenge in order to function at its peak. And then if you go past that point of challenge to too much challenge or too much stress on the body, then you start to deteriorate again. So where is that right amount? Well, it's kind of different for everybody. So you have to find out for yourself where is the right amount of challenge and stress in your life to keep you vital and alive and interested, but not so much that you're breaking down your body and causing increased aging. That whole concept is actually known as hormesis, and it's an important concept to understand. All right, so what reduces the aging process? Well, we actually know a lot about that too. There's so much we don't know about aging, but we're learning more and more every year. And there are things that we know absolutely that reduce the aging process. And we know that if you have all the right nutrients that your body needs to rebuild cells and to make energy, that you are going to reduce that aging process. So what are those nutrients? Well, it's good to know what they all are, but you really don't need to know the names of all of them because they are in whole foods. So if you're eating whole organic foods that have been grown in the soil, they will have the nutrients that your body needs to build. Do they have all the nutrients that they had 100 years ago? Unfortunately, no. The soils have been depleted enough to where it's hard to have as many nutrients as they did years ago. So I do usually recommend supplementation for almost everybody because I feel like we have additional needs for nutrients because of the additional chemical exposure that we have and the additional stress and all the other things that are happening in the world. So we do have more needs for nutrients, and the foods, even when grown organically, don't have as many of these nutrients as they did years ago when the soils were richer. And then, like we were just talking about, movement, of course, reduces aging. And then having the right amount of challenge, like we just talked about, that can reduce aging and cause rejuvenation of the body, cause vitality, cause you to be engaged and mentally stimulated. And then, of course, proper sleep, like we said. And then protecting ourselves from damage. So let me just say here, I don't focus a lot in this class tonight on the sun and sunscreen, but I mean, let's face it, if you are out in the sun too long, and you can have damage from the sun. So we do have to be aware of that. What I would caution is not to use sunscreens that have damaging chemicals in them themselves, which a lot of the sunscreens out there do. But you can find some nice, healthy, clean sunscreens, and be careful not to damage your skin in the sun. So that type of protection, and then protecting yourselves with the antioxidants that are in foods and in supplements that help to protect yourselves from free radicals and from chemicals that are in the foods and air and products. So there is a lot of things that we can do. So what does our skin need? Well, our skin needs what it uses to build collagen and elastin and all those fibers in our skin. And so thankfully you can get those nutrients from, there's a lot of products out there that advertise having the nutrients that the skin needs to rebuild, and absolutely that helps. Does it help to actually take collagen, to use collagen? Absolutely it does. That gives your skin the extra collagen protein that it needs to rebuild. The skin also needs the proper blood flow. So it needs oxygen and nutrients from the blood. So you may be getting these nutrients into your body, but are you absorbing them? Is your gut working properly? So you're absorbing them, and then are they getting into the blood and being carried to the tissues the way they need to be? And that's all a complex process, and that's part of what I do as a functional medicine practitioner, is to help determine that, where is the problem and are the nutrients getting to where they need to be. So what is good nutrition? Well, as I said, and I have said probably thousands of times, it's actually really very simple. If it looks like it grew out of the earth or one time it ran around on the earth, then it's probably something healthy for you, and it's probably what you should be eating. If it doesn't resemble a food that could have grown from the earth or been on the earth at any time, then it probably is not good for you because it's probably been altered in some way. It's been processed, it's had things taken out of it, it's had things added to it if it doesn't resemble a plant or animal. So we all need adequate protein. Can you get that from plants? Absolutely you can. You have to know how to do that. So vegans need to know how to get the protein that they need to rebuild. We are made of protein, so protein is essential. We probably don't need as much protein as we think we need. I think in this country we do overdo protein a little bit, but there are some nice formulas you can use to determine how much protein you need. We need healthy fats. And what does that mean? Well, it means fats that have not been altered. So we don't want anything that has a lot of trans fats in it, meaning that the fats have been cooked at high temperature, and so they've been altered, or they've been processed somehow and things done to them to change them from their original form. So we want to eat the good fats that are in foods and the good oils that have been made from those healthy foods. And then we need lots of vitamins and minerals from our dark green leafy veggies. Those, the colors in vegetables a lot of times tell you what nutrients are in there. So you want a wide variety of colors, but the dark green leafy do tend to be is full of a lot of those vitamins and minerals that we need. And then we need antioxidants. So what are antioxidants? Well, they are the nutrients in food that protect our cells. They actually protect your cells from damage from free radicals, and they are found in fruits and vegetables. So it's very important. You can take antioxidants through supplements too, but you can get a lot of them through your fruits and vegetables. And we need water. So another aspect of aging, and particularly aging of the skin, has to do with dehydration. So we need to get water into our bodies, and we need to be able to absorb that water. So we need certain minerals to be able to absorb that water properly and to use it in our tissues. So hydration is really important. About a half an ounce of water per pound of body weight. So if you weighed 150, you would want to get about 75 ounces of water a day. All right, so here's something else that there's been a lot of research on, and you probably read about it if you're interested in aging and weight loss and things like that. There's been a lot of articles, books, all kinds of research done on fasting. And probably the most popular one right now is called intermittent fasting. And for intermittent fasting, you're usually going for a little bit longer period of the day without eating than normal. So we probably usually eat within about 12, 13, 14 hours of the day. But with intermittent fasting, you're reducing that. So the period of time when you don't eat is about 16 hours. And then that leaves about 8 hours for the period of time when you are eating. So you're kind of narrowing that window when you have your meals. And it's as simple as if you stop eating at 8 o'clock in the evening and go through the night and then don't eat again until noon the next day, that's 16 hours of fasting, and that's intermittent fasting. And what happens when you do intermittent fasting is you are telling your body to start burning fats because it doesn't have the ready carbohydrates that it would normally burn when you're eating food. It will start to burn fat, and it'll get in a fat burning mode. And if you, what the research shows is that if you do that 2 to 3 days a week, that can promote anti-aging or quicker rejuvenation of your body. And then the other thing is there's Walter Longo. He's an Italian researcher, and he's done a lot of research with fasting, and And he promotes that you go about 5 days a month on a fast each month. And he sees a lot of anti-aging benefits to that. And he doesn't really promote no food at all. What he says is you can just go on a low-calorie diet for those 5 days. So I would say between 600 to 1,000 calories a day on those fasting days. If you want to really fast and just do a water fast for that long, I advise that you do it under doctor's supervision, because there are some complicating factors, and if you have any other health issues, it's really not recommended to do that on your own without a doctor's supervision. All right. So, movement, and we hopefully we haven't beat this to death, but it's just so important. I really can't stress it enough how important movement is for anti-aging. And what it does is not only the things that we've already mentioned, but it also releases chemicals that are pain relievers, that help you feel good. And it's a lot of what Rebecca was talking about, how when you are just sedentary all day, you feel exhausted because you're mentally exhausted. You've been using your brain, which certainly uses most of the calories that we use all day. And but you haven't been using your body, and so you just feel totally exhausted. But once you get up and move and start doing something, it releases these feel-good chemicals, and it gives you a rush of energy and picks up your metabolism so that you feel better. And probably one of the most important things that movement does for anti-aging is it stimulates the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is all these tubules that run through the body that help filter out toxins, both the toxins that our own body makes in its metabolic processes, and also the toxins we're exposed to are filtered into lymph nodes and then out of our system and out of our body. And this is really important because the lymphatic system doesn't have its own pumping mechanism. It relies on the movement of the body in order to pump out these toxins. So it's really, really important for anti-aging and removal of toxins. So, but the type of exercise you do has also been shown to have an effect on anti-aging and weight loss. So the thing that has been studied most is something called high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. It's usually abbreviated. And it's very brief periods where you go through intense exercise that causes you to get out of breath for maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and then you go through another minute and a half to 2 minutes of a lower intensity, and then back to the higher intensity for 30 seconds to a minute where you're out of breath, and then back to a lower. And you do this alternating of intervals of high intensity with the lower intensity. And then really they have shown that the most you need to do that is about 10 minutes a day. And if you do that, you stimulate growth hormone, which stimulates fat burning and also stimulates regeneration of the body. And so it's anti-aging. So the high intensity intervals is a form of anti-aging exercise.
Does 10 minutes a day? Does 10 minutes a day sound good to you all? I didn't grow up hearing 10 minutes a day. I think that's really interesting.
10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
It's all you need of that to stimulate growth hormone and cause regeneration of cells. Absolutely. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about challenge. All parts of your body need challenge. We know this about exercise, right? We know that in order to build more muscle, we've got to break down some muscle fibers, and that stimulates your body to say, oh, wait a minute, we need to build this stronger. There's a need here. And this is how our body is built. Actually, all parts of our body are built this way. Our bones build by challenge to them. Whenever the bones are stressed or receive some sort of challenge, receive pressure, they rebuild themselves denser. A broken bone builds stronger than the bone was before the break. And then our immune system is built the same way. The current understanding of our immune system is that it's a meet and greet system. So it wants to be challenged, and it learns about our environment and how to protect us from the things that are dangerous by being challenged. So if we're not challenged, in other words, if we take an antibiotic every single time that we catch anything, our immune system never has time to build, and it never grows strong enough to protect us. And this protection is extremely important for aging. I can't tell you how damaging constant illnesses are to people. If you are suffering from chronic illnesses, you are going to age so much faster than people who are healthy and get challenged by minor illnesses and grow stronger for that. So always keep that in mind. Those of you who are have health challenges, you want to do this carefully, but you want to allow your body to be exposed to slightly dangerous microorganisms, because your immune system greets them, recognizes them, and then builds a response to them, and that's how it works. We also want to have mental challenges in our life, and part of aging is that we aren't learning at the speed that we're learning when we're younger. We're not doing the same things. We're not challenging our mind in the same way. And I know everybody has met someone, an older person, senior, who is still engaged and mentally challenged in learning new things. And they are so incredibly useful and so inspiring to all of us. But we can all do that. We can find something that inspires us, something that we've always wanted to know, something we've always wanted to learn about, and mentally challenge ourselves. And that's the only way for the brain to form new connections. So we never grow new neurons. We have our neurons, and as they die over time, we don't grow new ones, but we can form new connections with the neurons that are there. And we do that by mental challenge, by learning new things, and stretching our brains. And then I'm also a firm believer that we all need some sort of emotional challenge. We need a little bit of emotional stress in our lives. We need to find out exactly how strong we are, and how we can not only survive but thrive through and after challenges in our lives and trauma in our lives. So these things are part of life, and we all experience them, and we find out what we're made of, and it helps us to grow stronger and to grow more vibrant and to be more alive, and helps us to not age as quickly. All right, and then sleep. So this is a tricky one for a lot of people, because it does it's affected by so many things in our life. So it's affected by what we have going on. It's affected by the hormones that we have. It's affected by what we do during the day. It's affected by our habits in the evening. But there are some real basics. It's during our sleep that our body repairs itself, so it's very important that we get adequate sleep. And it's very important that, because of all these hormones that I have listed on this screen are affected by sleep deprivation. So growth hormone is what causes our body to resist aging. It's what slows aging and causes us to rejuvenate ourselves. So we need more growth hormone. Anything we can do to increase that is helpful. And we don't want to increase cortisol, because that's the hormone that breaks down our body. Remember, I mentioned before. And then leptin is the hormone that tells us that we're satisfied after eating a meal. So we don't want to decrease the hormone that tells us that we've eaten enough. And we don't want to increase the hormone that tells us that we're hungry, which is ghrelin. But all of these things happen through sleep deprivation. So sleep is extremely important. And like I said, 7 to 8 hours, but really the test is, do you feel rested when you wake up? And then the last thing I mentioned about sleep, which is always a stumbling block for, well, not always, but for most people, it's a stumbling block. And that is that the screens, the technology screens, your computer, your TV, your phone, all of these things emit a blue light that is a signal to your brain to wake up. So if you are watching a screen within, say, an hour, hour and a half of bedtime, you're just not going to sleep as well. You may fall asleep, but you'll wake up soon because your brain has been given a message that it's time to wake up. So if you have trouble sleeping and wake up during the night, don't turn on the TV or turn on or look at your phone or do any of those things, because that's going to just make it worse. But you can listen to nice relaxing music. You can do the white noise thing. There's all kinds of apps now and machines where you can play all these different sounds that are that help you relax and fall asleep. You can do meditation. You can do some stretching before you go to bed. You can take a nice bath with some Epsom salt. You can put some nice relaxing essential oils in your diffuser. There's all kinds of things you can do to promote sleep.
So, Dr. Thompson, back to that slide. Oh yeah, and you see the list of the hormones here and the hormone imbalance. So just a point of like a reference for what you do when you work with a client, it's not just enough like, hey, go ahead and get more sleep, it's going to solve all your problems. You're able to kind of assess where these imbalances are with your patients and what really needs to be addressed, right?
Absolutely. We can do hormone testing and tell a lot about what's going on with their hormones, and there's different ways to do that. There's saliva, there's the dried urine testing, and there's all sorts of tests we can do for hormones. And a lot of times we can, all the hormones in the body have what is called a feedback mechanism. And so if you are getting exposed to or taking hormones from the outside, that affects how the glands in your body make those hormones and other hormones. So it's this delicate balance that goes on. So what I help people do is determine where they might be getting exposed to hormones, or if they decide that they don't want to be taking hormones that they've been taking for a while, I help them to wean off of those if they'd like to, and to stimulate their own glands to make the hormones that they need. And I don't ever advise anyone to just stop taking hormones ever, because the body doesn't like quick changes in hormones, and it can be a very unpleasant process. So that's not something I'm recommending at all, but I can help people with these hormone issues. Did that answer your question? Okay. All right. So I want to just mention some of the products that I use in my office that are helpful with anti-aging, because they are specifically designed and produced with natural ingredients to help your body rejuvenate itself. And the first one is from Standard Process and is directed at the skin. So it's really directed at the collagen and elastin and helping your body to rejuvenate the skin. And then I have another product that's from Epigenetics. It's called trisomal glutathione. Glutathione is your body's main antioxidant. And remember, antioxidants are what help protect your cells from damage. So antioxidants are essential if you want to slow down aging. And this particular glutathione product has been designed to deliver glutathione in 3 different ways. So the problem that we've had always with glutathione is that it's poorly absorbed and getting it to where it needs to go. And Apex has done a beautiful job here designing this glutathione product that is able to get in and do the work that it needs to do to protect your cells from aging, from oxidation. And then we have one called Herbavital from MediHerb, and it's a combination of different vitality herbs. And it's a really powerful product for aging. I usually recommend that anyone over 50 should be on Herbavital. It's one of my favorite products. And then Vitanox is another powerful antioxidant product from MediHerb. Has the most powerful antioxidants in it that we know in herbology. And this one is great for anyone, but I usually recommend it, Herbavital, for people over 50, and then Vitanox for younger people to prevent aging and to help with prevent oxidation. And then I have a Boswellia complex, which is directed at inflammation. And so it has 4 different herbs in it that are really powerful to prevent inflammation. And then Withenia complex is directed at the adrenal glands and stress and vitality. And it has a combination of 4 different herbs that help with to promote vitality and stamina. So those are probably my favorite anti-aging products that I have. Have a full line of supplements, and I'm a full believer in supplements, but I'm a full believer in whole food supplements made from organic foods and high quality herbals. The supplement industry is another industry that is not regulated, and so a lot of times you don't really know what you're getting. You need to know the companies that you are purchasing from, and so that's what I've done, is found the best companies, and I buy the best products that I can find, and because of that, they're very effective.
So, Christine, we do have a question.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on collagen peptides in smoothies?
Collagen peptides?
Peptides, Peptides.
Well, I think that collagen is very helpful, and I think it's easy to put it in a smoothie. You can put collagen in your coffee. You can put it in smoothies, and it definitely, as long as it's an organic source and a clean source, I think it's very helpful for aging to give your body some extra collagen protein. Was that the question? I hope.
I think so.
Okay. All right. If it wasn't, ask it again, and I'll make sure that I answer it properly.
Okay. They'll let me know. They said, awesome, thanks.
Okay, good. All right. So after all of that, what I always like to say is that it's complicated. There's a lot of information. There's a lot more information out there, and every individual is different. And so what I do is to help people wade through all this information and find out what's going on in their body and where the problems are and what's preventing them from healing and rejuvenating the way that they want to be, in the way that they can be, and so that they are vital and healthy and enjoying their life. So that's what I do on a daily basis, and I do that through all these services listed on the screen here. I focus on functional medicine, as Rebecca said in the beginning, and basically all that means is we're looking for the underlying cause of health issues, and we're correcting that cause. So am I interested in your symptoms? Of course I am, because that's what's either making you enjoy your life or not enjoy your life. And we want those symptoms to go away. But if I am to just address those symptoms, not getting to the cause, what's causing the symptoms, and that's what I always want to do. So I address what's underlying the cause of your health issues, and then your symptoms go away as we start the healing process. And I do a full line of lab work. I can do blood labs, stool lab, dried urine, saliva labs, all kinds of different things. And I can do DNA testing, and we can analyze your DNA for the epigenetics, how you should be eating, what type of exercise is best for your DNA, all those kind of things. And I also provide chiropractic and low-level laser, or cold laser as it's known, and liver cleanses or detoxification programs. So lots of services that I have available, and mostly it's what I provide is the individual one-on-one, so we can find out what's going on in particular with each person.